Ostranauts is a space life and survival sim by Blue Bottle Games. While learning to play isn't rocket science, it can still be very intimidating. Luckily, I'm here to help you get started. I'm Caelyn Sandel, narrative designer for Caves of Cud and avid Ostranauts fan, and this is Getting Started in Ostranauts. Let's start by clicking that new button on the menu screen and meet our spacer. Part 1 Tutorial. This may look like an ordinary dating app to the average person in 2075, but really it's your interface to choose your character's appearance, pronouns, and who they're interested in romantically. Spend some time playing with it until you've got someone you're willing to spend some time with. The Build a Resume section of character generation lets you craft the life that your spacer lived before getting their first ship, as well as what skills and traits they picked up, positive and negative, along the way. Live Life and Gain Experience presents you with situations from your character's life as a sort of let's say as a legally distinct choice-based adventure. The decisions you make will determine the skills and scars with which you enter the game. Don't worry too much about the decisions you make here. Even unlucky spacers can make it big, but maybe avoid stealing a ship on your first go. Tweak Skills and Traits lets you trade years of your character's life to erase negative characteristics or pick up some more skills. This is best done after adventuring a few times. Save some money is exactly what it says. Don't worry about it for now. Seek Ship and End Career costs your spacer a year of their life, but then presents a ship that you may or may not be excited about buying. Think carefully. If you decline, it'll cost another year to try again. A note about aging and health. Being born in space as the character history intro drives home is not something humans evolved to do. Spaceborne people age faster than their erstwhile terrestrial brethren, and the longer you take to tweak your character traits, the more likely you'll be hit with unexpected disabilities, injuries, and frailties. Fun fact, this will also eventually happen to you in real life. Whether you aged yourself into a bad back, spent years in the brig, or simply had a good time whining and dining in the elite, you'll need to have a ship by the end of character creation. The OSR rating of a ship indicates how safe it is to drive around, and anything moderate or better will suit our needs just fine. The mortgage? You'll worry about that later. Right now, just get that ship and submit your resume. Whoa, okay, overwhelming. Yeah, a lot of windows just popped up. This central one is the Ostraka, the game's inbuilt guidebook. It's very helpful for supplemental information and context, but you can decide if you want to pore through it later. For now, let's close it and pay attention to this notification right here. These are goals, and the tutorial will use them to let you know what you need to do next. So, following the prompts, unpause the game, view your character's paper doll portrait, and put some clothes on. Continue following the tutorial steps. To turn on the lights and door, get your tools and tote bag, and step outside to meet your home station. OKLG, or K-Leg, is the asteroid-based space station on which you were born and grew up, and it will be your main source of resources and social contact for quite a few hours of gameplay. Walk the hallways and the tutorial will teach you how to install some electric cable, rewarding you with your first welding tool, a battery-devouring stir welder. This is likely to be your first experience with time controls, which allow you to adjust the speed down to a quarter of normal or up to 16 times faster than normal. Days in Ostranauts are a full 24 real hours long, so making use of the time controls and later the fast-forward function are vital if you want to get anything done. Once the game leads you onto your ship, it'll run you through a few maintenance tasks and introduce you to Mega Tooltips and the Visor, which will let you use helpful visual filters to show you, for example, which parts of your ship are damaged. Once you've made some basic repairs, the tutorial will prompt you to take a seat at the helm and drive the ship. I know, don't freak out. There's a lot to the nav console, but we only need to learn one thing at a time. Let's follow the tutorial and get permission to undock from K-Leg. Once you hit that clamps button, you're floating free, and it's time to head back to the nav console and run through some basic tutorial goals, getting used to your spin controls and thrusters. which can also be done via mouse through the controls panel. Being in space, we're only able to measure our speed in comparison to a ship, station, or celestial body. Thankfully, the Ostranauts universe is a flat plane, and this makes our considerations much easier. VREL is your relative velocity heading toward or away from your target, whereas VCross is your relative velocity perpendicular to the target. This means that if you're piloting directly toward or away from a target, your VCross should be 0 or close to it. Once the tutorial has tested that you can control the basics, it's time to find a derelict ship to go raid. Oh, how convenient. This ship's call sign is Tutorial Derelict. I wonder what the original pilot thought about that. Navigate to the ship per the tutorial, learning the vital match speed function, and dock with it at a safe speed of under 100 meters per second by aligning your clamp with the ship's airlock and clamping once you're close enough. The scariest part is over, so let's suit up to do some scavenging. Unless you got lucky during character creation, you only have access to the basic pressure suit that you picked up from your dorm room on Caelyn. This getup will keep you safe in hard vacuum, but the only breathable air in it is the atmo that you captured before putting the helmet on. Keep an eye on the alarms that appear on your helmet HUD to keep yourself safe. Say, what's that little yellow ticket on the ground? Turns out there's something important I didn't tell you. Normally, scavenging a ship like this without a license could get you in a lot of trouble, saddling you with a bribe, a hefty fine, or even time in the brig. Thankfully, whoever last visited Tutorial Derelict left behind a 24-hour license that still has some time left on it. As long as you're hanging on to this ticket, and it's not expired, you can scavenge legally from the many ship husks floating around Caelyn. Speaking of which, let's get to that. The tutorial shows us that repairing power infrastructure in a derelict can be advantageous, since it can bring closed doors online. Of course, you can always just pry them open, or scrap them, or uninstall them to sell later. The important thing is that if your suit alarms start to flash or beep, you head back to your ship right away to pull off your helmet and cycle the air. Since your ship probably isn't very big, drag whatever you can fit onto it. Thrusters, doors, pumps, and oxygen tanks that aren't empty are some of the best early moneymakers, so aim for those. Once you've collected at least 3 or 4 nice-looking goodies to bring home with you, do as the tutorial asks. Go home and dock with Caelyn. Because you picked up that little yellow ticket, you did pick it up, right? You can sell your goods at the licensees only kiosk. This only applies to things that you have on your person or are dragging behind you, at least until you set up barter zones, which I'll tell you more about later. You may notice that the kiosk pays better prices for parts that are in good shape, so using your welder to restore some of the salvage before selling it can improve its profitability. If your welder dies, feed it some Halverson batteries from the supplies kiosk. They're cheap. Now that you have some money, the tutorial wants us to pay some bills, and so do the people we owe money to. Click your cash balance and try not to freak out. Yes, it's a lot, but we can click one button to take care of all of it. To complete the last tutorial step, let's hit up the refuel kiosk. We'll need to buy nitrogen for navigation, oxygen for breathing, and power for making the ship work. Slide them all right and pay. Now that your ship is refueled, the tutorial is done with you. But I'm not. Part 2, Spacer Life. This is a good time to double check the license you found and realize that it's about to run out. A fresh one-day license costs $5,000, but it'll cost you way more if you try to scavenge without one and get caught. If you don't have enough money for a new license, but don't want to live dangerously, the gig kiosk always has some local courier jobs. Look for the ones that have Caelyn as both the start and end point. Congratulations, you now know how to make money. Have it coercively extracted from you by a monopoly and spend what remains. But life is so much more than that. You need to feed yourself, whether via one of Caelyn's street food carts or an array of technically edible varieties of trenchers. When you get thirsty or want to wash your face, you can get a little water from the station sinks or shell out for a full vacuum bottle of water. Caelyn's facilities are adequate for your bathroom and sleep needs, too. until you can install better quality facilities on your own ship. But if those were all the needs you had to worry about, this wouldn't be a deep sim. Click this toggle button to display an alternate set of needs, from achievement to intimacy. Your spacer wants to lead a good life, and it's up to you to make it happen. Click your character portrait and expand the info to see your character's tags. Tags like this comprise every aspect of every game object, though some tags are invisible to the player. Your character's tags are a barely sorted list of who they are as a person, from their moods and needs to their skills and scars. Personality tags can change the way your character talks to people and how things affect their mood and needs bars. You might notice that if you select another person, you can't see very many of their tags. If you start a conversation with them, however, those tags start to show themselves. When you're trying to impress, seduce, or pacify another spacer, you have to keep an eye on their mood. People who feel scared or slighted aren't likely to sign employment contracts or agree to stop threatening your buddy. Dialogue is the fastest way to nudge someone's mood around, and it starts with convincing them not to ignore you and keep walking. Every dialogue choice comes with a preview of how it's likely to affect the NPC's state of mind and yours as well. While most dialogue options are based on your personality and mood, there are also certain topics that your character will collect through experience, watching TV, browsing social media, taking in news, and embarrassing yourself while trying to fly your ship. Spacers who have or decide to pick up a smoking habit can even offer a cigarette to someone as a social hook. Some quests don't advance until you mention them to people as topics. Conversation can change a hiring prospect not just before but during the interview. What happens if you neglect your social needs? Well, stressed spacers act out. They'll spend free time crying, pacing, drawing smut on their belongings, or quivering uncontrollably. They'll make off-color commentary to their peers and lose access to more productive topics of conversation. Self-soothing behaviors performed alone do help with low social needs, but not nearly as well as social contact with others. Keep an eye on what your character wants and have conversations that help them get it without disrupting the needs of others too badly. Part 3. Surviving Captaining. You know all the basics now, but we're only a few hours into the very first day of gameplay, and you can't micromanage everything if we're going to make it a week in. Let's say you're salvaging a wreck. You have lots of Atmo in your ship's tanks, full batteries, some snacks, and water, and you're ready to lock in. For this example, we're going to install a little storage extension outside of the ship. Let's issue an order to uninstall some walls and floors. You can uncheck whichever types of part you want to omit from the orders, if any, then click and drag a box to indicate your range of orders. Click Auto Task on the HUD and activate 16x time to watch your little spacer go to work at super speed. While the work is being done, let's queue up the next job. Blueprints are just like orders, but more focused. Click Install, then Hull. Select a floor, either a specific one or the generic choice to use whatever's available. Now draw a 3 by whatever square to place the floor blueprints. Across the middle of that, we're going to place a line of walls. With that bare bones infrastructure, we can install storage racks to carry our loot. Are they a little more likely to be demolished by space dust being out here in the vacuum? Yes. Am I going to explain how to pressurize a new cabin at this point in the video? No. For the most part, crew members will try to claim and complete any orders you issue during their work hours. If an order seems to be neglected, mouse over it to see if they're missing an important component or if the object isn't accessible by your crew, or if they're off work. Sometimes the issue is with the 4 permissions in the roster menu. When a crew member isn't wearing any protection from the vacuum of space, you need to make sure they don't open airlocks and decompress their lungs. Speaking of which, spacers work well with schedules. Spacers need sleep, and sleeping during a scheduled sleep shift is more restful than a work nap. During free hours, even your captain will do whatever they feel like doing and won't accept any orders that involve working. Thankfully, the fast forward feature lets us skip the less eventful hours of our crew's day, as long as you aren't on a collision course with anything. No blueprints or orders are fulfilled during fast-forwarded time, but crew on a work shift will passively repair the ship, free crew will attempt to de-stress or socialize, and sleeping crew will become less fatigued. Zones are a great tool for management. Open the Zones menu, try selecting your ship's main chamber, and click New Zone. Now that you have this zone, you can assign it as a hauling, barter, or forbidden zone. Hauling zones are great for clearing out ships full of valuable junk. The haul order will attempt to drag any marked item to a free space in the hauling zone. Use of this order with external cargo netting makes scavenging downright convenient. Barter zones will appear in your inventory list when you're selling items, and by default, if this is checked, things you buy will be deposited in those zones. Crew will refuse to step into a forbidden zone. This can be specific to the captain or the rest of the crew. I keep talking about captain and crew as distinct entities, but for the first few hours of gameplay, you're likely to be by yourself. Once you have your feet under you and you can afford $60,000 to $80,000 worth of collateral death pay, it may be time to hire someone. If you talk to a fellow shipbreaker and offer them a job, they may be open to the idea if they're not in a bad mood and the pay is right. Once you have more than one crew member, you can switch control between them, but be careful. Issuing direct commands to an employee the way you would to your captain can stress them out, dangerously lowering their autonomy stat. You can help guide crew by issuing orders, laying out blueprints, and toggling permissions in the roster menu. If they don't seem to be doing what you ask them to do, make sure they're allowed to get where they need to go and have the tools to do what you want. Part 4. Not surviving captaining. Armed with this knowledge, you've got what you need to jet around in a little steel box, attaching yourself to pieces of space debris so you can strip valuable bits off of them. What could possibly go wrong? What, for example, can happen if you let your primary needs bars get too low? Well, if you've ever wanted to be hangry in a video game, Ostranauts has you covered. But letting your needs slack can result in much worse. You can probably predict what happened the first time I tried to fly a week-long trip to Venus with only 3 days worth of water. An exhausted character works and moves slower, and so do characters that are in pain. Exposing your spacer to high G-forces can mean passing out while trying to complete a docking maneuver, potentially with fatal results. Your pressure suit can kill you if you leave it on for too long, but leaving the airlock without one will kill you much faster. Character AI will usually try to put a helmet on before crossing an airlock, but your direct orders might lead your captain outside without one. Hypercapnia is survivable, but extremely unpleasant. Try to make sure that unsuited characters always have airlock access disabled. Of course, all the care in the world won't stop space dust from punching a hole in your hull every once in a while, so keep some hull sealing materials on you and be careful before opening a door or wall with a strong pressure differential. Fire is a fairly recent addition to the Ostranauts mechanic family, but it's already managed to wreak havoc on several of my saves. It's no wonder, since Caelyn is optimized for occupational hazards. Sparks from bad wiring or welding work can land on fabric, paper, or leftover cigarette butts, causing a conflagration and making the air unbreathable. If you end up with a fire on your own ship, the fastest way to take care of it is to expose it to hard vacuum. Suit up and vent your ship to put out just about any normal fire, or try to fight it with a fire extinguisher if you don't want to waste atmo. Speaking of atmo, fires start more easily in oxygen-rich environments. O2 and N2 alarms, when connected to your gas pumps, will automatically maintain a mix of 20 kPa O2 and 80 kPa N2, comfortable to breathe while being less likely to go up in smoke. Prevention is the key. Keep your spare clothing, cigarettes, manuals, and other detritus in racks or overhead bins. Repair your cables frequently, and decrease cable load with redundancy. One possible fate should be obvious from the premise. You are driving a big hunk of metal through a cloud of broken down hunks of metal along with dozens of other metal hunk pilots. If any one of those hunks of metal makes contact with yours at velocity, any meat inside will be roughly processed, and that includes you. It's only safe to dock if you're moving under 100 meters per second, and it's best to keep it under 200 if you're maneuvering near a station or derelict. Also, there are pirates. These folks aren't afraid to rough you up just so that they can have your stuff, and sometimes it's best just to let them take your salvage so you can keep your life. If you have a combat skill from character creation, you might just want to beat the heck out of them in advance. If you get injured, it's going to take time to get better. Bandaging yourself will stop bleeding, but you won't heal fully without plenty of rest and maybe an immunoboost or supplement if you can afford it. Don't forget, if things go horribly, you can return to a previous save. While its predecessor NEO Scavenger was a roguelike, Ostranauts thoughtfully keeps a stack of autosaves for you, which is vital because sometimes you make mistakes that you don't know are mistakes until an autosave or two later. Doing a heart save before trying something foolhardy is a good way to create a bit of insurance against the consequences, too. Now you know everything. Well, no, there's never going to be time to tell you everything there is to know about Ostranauts. The game creates its own stories from a combination of your actions and the randomized environment around you. People live their lives, travel from station to station, make friends and enemies, and sometimes die off screen. You can gear up and travel to worn-torn Cirrus as soon as you can, or you can spend hundreds of hours building up your wealth and skills to purchase a visa to Venus. Or you can create an orbiting luxury yacht from your ship-breaking fortune and live there indefinitely. You have the time and freedom to explore the parts of the game that bring you joy, whether it's the physics sim, the social sim, the quests and lore, or some combination of those. The galaxy is your oyster. Hard to crack open, but may contain a pearl. Also may have parasites that will make you very sick. See you in the boneyard!